everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, A Smarter Approach to Workers' Compensation Final Audits. My name is Alexa Hill, and I'm the Marketing Manager here at CID. Today, we have Darby Fisher, CID's Work Comp Underwriter, sharing her expertise and diving deep into final audits for you all. As you can tell, you are all muted, but there is a chat feature where you can type your questions in and we'll answer them throughout the webinar. Your voice is very important to us, and we want to make sure that all of your questions are answered, so please feel free to chat them in at any time. So without further ado, I'll pass it off to Darby.
Good morning, everyone. So quickly, we'll just get started with the objectives for today's webinar. As you know, workers' compensation audits can have a significant impact on both your client's financial outcomes and your agency's operational efficiency. Yet many brokers find themselves spending valuable time reacting to audit issues, resolving disputes, and managing unexpected premium adjustments rather than focusing on growth-oriented activities. By developing a smarter approach to audit management, brokers can improve client experiences, reduce servicing burdens, and create opportunities to strengthen relationships and drive retention. So in today's webinar, we'll walk through the workers' compensation final audit process from start to finish, including how to prepare insureds for carrier documentation requirements, when and how to challenge audit results, and strategies for preventing common audit issues before they occur. We'll also discuss how proactive audit and renewal planning can improve client outcomes, reduce future disputes, and position you as a trusted advisor. Ultimately, our goal is to help you streamline audit servicing efforts so that you can spend less time managing problems and more time focusing on revenue-generated activities, account growth, and new business development. So we're going to have a few polls we'd love for you to participate in throughout the webinar. Just wanted to give that as a precursor. So audit readiness, what every insured should know. The work comp audit process begins prior to policy expiration when the insured receives a premium audit information request directly from the insurance carrier in order to verify key exposure details, ensuring final premium accurately reflects actual business operations. So as part of your renewal preparation with the insured, it is important to remind them that they will receive an audit request before the policy renews and should be ready to respond in a timely manner. As the broker, you can also request a copy from the carrier or reach out to your wholesale broker to provide you with it if available. The audit request, depending on the type of audit assigned to be completed, is going to detail all the information needed to be submitted in order to verify payroll and class codes. So we're going to discuss those items during the webinar. It's important to be in contact with the insured during this time to assist them with complying and submitting the requested information, as the insured typically has 30 days to comply with their final audit. Where I see the most problems occur is when an insured is looking for an audit extension. Unfortunately, carriers are extremely strict with the due date, so additional time is not granted. So that's why it's really important to not let this slip to the wayside in order to avoid disruptions with their current policy term or non-compliance fees. When the audit request is issued to the insured, it outlines the required payroll records, class code details, and supporting documentation needed to complete the audit, and whether it's a voluntary audit or a phone/physical audit. As I mentioned previously, the deadline to comply is typically within 30 days of that audit notice being issued. So once all of the documentation has been received and reviewed, the final audit processing generally takes 30 to 90 days to complete. However, the carrier could review the documentation and advise that more additional information is required in order for them to complete their review. If that's the case, a request for additional information is sent out directly to the insured. So it's important that the insured, once submitting the initial documentation, they're still checking their email or online portal to ensure nothing additional was requested. Once the final audit is issued by the carrier, if additional premium is due, many carriers offer payment plan options to help manage a larger balance, but the insured needs to be proactive in setting this up. Any unpaid balances for a long period of time is going to be sent to collections, which can affect the current policy term by placing the policy either in pending cancellation status or setting the insured up for non-renewal. So as I go through today's webinar, my primary objective is to help you reduce the time and effort spent managing workers' compensation audit issues by setting proper expectations with the insured and promoting a proactive audit process. By understanding the audit timeline, the documents required, you can minimize audit-related service work, avoid unnecessary follow-up, and spend more time focused on revenue-generating activities and new business development. The next few slides cover the most common types of workers' compensations. This first one, voluntary, but there is also physical or phone audits and non-compliant audits. Understanding the type of audit and its process helps improve compliance while reducing administrative burden for brokers. So, a voluntary audit is initiated by the carrier sending either an audit notice or questionnaire directly to the insured. It's typically by mail prior to policy expiration, but recently carriers have been moving to a digital platform, so requesting the insureds complete their audit online through their online secure portal. Um, can also be another method. So just make note of that when reviewing the audit notice. And if you have questions, you can reach out to your broker or the carrier directly. The insured is responsible for completing the request accurately and returning it to the carrier, along with any requested supported documentation. So with voluntary audits, those are the ones you're going to see most often. And it's especially important that it is accurate documentation being provided, as this is the information the carrier is going to use to calculate the final premium. The second type is a physical or phone audit, which is conducted by a carrier-appointed auditor, either on-site or over the phone. Physical and phone audits are generally assigned to larger businesses, accounts with higher payrolls, or operations that involve more complex exposures and classification structures. These audit methods allow the carrier to conduct a more detailed review of business activities and ensure that all payroll and job classifications have been properly reported. This process is typically initiated within 60 days prior to the policy expiration, although some carriers may begin the process shortly after the policy renews. It just depends in getting the auditor assigned to the account because this takes a little bit more time. The auditor will schedule the review in advance with the insured directly, providing notice of the date and time and identifying the payroll records and supporting documentation needed to complete the audit. In most cases, similarly to the voluntary audit, it needs to be completed within 30 days of the initial request to avoid being marked as delinquent. The last type of audit is the one you want to avoid. It's a non-compliant or estimated audit. And this occurs when an insured fails to cooperate with or complete the required workers' compensation audit within the time frame established by the insurance carrier. When audit requests are ignored or all documentation being requested isn't provided, the carrier issues either an estimated audit or assesses for a non-compliance fee. Rather than using actual payroll and exposure information, these audits result in significantly high non-compliance charge. So the estimated premium becomes immediately due and payable and remains in effect until the insured completes the audit and provides the required supporting documentation for review. If the insured wishes to comply, which is most of the time the case, after an estimated or non-compliant audit has been issued, they need to reach out to the carrier and request that the audit be reopened. So otherwise, if they were to go online and complete the audit, they wouldn't have access to it because it's already been closed out. It's really important to make the request to reopen the audit and complete the audit before that non-compliance fee is due, as delays in doing so can create additional billing complications, collection activity, account restrictions, and administrative challenges that takes even more time to resolve even after the audit is completed. Failure to comply with audit requirements can lead to collection activity, policy cancellation or non-renewal, and negatively impacts the insured's ability to obtain workers' compensation coverage in the future. In some cases, carriers report non-compliance to underwriting databases, making it more difficult or costly to secure coverage with other insurance companies. So as you can see, each type of audit follows a different process and carries different levels of involvement and risk. By understanding how each type of audit is managed and resolved, and when insureds understand these expectations up front, it significantly improves compliance and reduces back and forth during the audit process. From a broker standpoint, this clarity is critical. It helps streamline servicing, minimize audit-related issues, and ultimately reduces the time spent on administrative follow-up. And that efficiency allows brokers to shift their focus away from reactive audit management and toward higher value activities like producing new business and driving growth. Why certificates of insurance are important to the audit process. These are one of the most common causes of unexpected audit premium. It's going to be missing or invalid subcontractor certificates. This is also one of the most frequent and time-consuming issues we see during the audit process. It often leads to significant back and forth between the broker, insured, and carrier. When certificates of insurance are not collected and submitted upfront as part of the audit documentation, it creates delays, increases exposure adjustments, and ultimately drives avoidable audit complications. So for all vendors and subcontractors hired by the insured, a valid certificate of insurance should be obtained upfront, showing active workers' compensation coverage with coverage dates that overlap the insured's policy period being audited. All certificates of insurance should be submitted in the initial audit request. Maintaining current subcontractor certificates throughout the year is going to help streamline the audit process and avoid unexpected premium charges. This is especially important for homeowners associations or contractors utilizing vendors because they do so more often. So having these processes in place is going to save you and the insured so much time. A little preparation can significantly reduce audit issues and additional premium charges. If valid proof of workers' compensation coverage cannot be provided, the subcontractor's payroll is going to remain included in the final audit and subject to that additional premium. So brokers can help clients avoid costly surprises by encouraging them to collect and retain certificates of insurance throughout the policy term, not just when the audit is requested. So we have a quick poll question. Should appear on your screens. Should insureds maintain certificates of insurance when hiring vendors to prepare for the audit? You guys can go ahead and select in and submit. Awesome. Everyone got it correct? True. We do want to maintain certificates of insurance when hiring vendors always. So now that the audit process, things have been submitted, once we're moving forward in understanding the cause of unexpected audit premium. So once the carrier reviews the audit documents and finalizes the audit, a copy is sent directly to the insured and broker of record. For a return premium, a refund is issued back to the insured by mail within 60 days of the audit being issued. And in more cases than I'd like to see, for additional premium due, the first step in determining where the additional premium is deriving from is to request a copy of the audit worksheet with the carrier. This document serves as the blueprint of the auditor's findings. So it's going to provide a detailed breakdown of employee payroll, classification codes, owners, and any subcontractor or vendor certificates of insurance that were received or not. It's also important to consider the type of audit that was performed when evaluating whether a valid audit dispute exists. For example, with a physical or phone audit, the auditor is typically on-site or or of course on the phone, but they're reviewing records directly with the insured and observing business operations firsthand. Because of this level of interaction and verification, the likelihood of significant errors in the final audit results are generally lower. In contrast, voluntary audits rely heavily on information and documentation submitted by the insured, and as a result, there's an often greater potential for discrepancies if payroll records, COIs, owner exclusions, or other supporting documentation was inadvertently omitted or not reviewed during the audit process. So understanding the audit method first helps identify whether the additional premium is the result of a legitimate exposure change or simply missing information that may support a dispute or audit revision request. So this audit worksheet, it's a valuable tool because it identifies what's driving the additional premium and allows the insured to determine whether the issue stems from a carrier error. The audit worksheet helps the insured prepare the necessary audit documentation to support a formal audit dispute if valid. Based on the findings in the audit worksheet, you'll have a good idea as to whether you have reason to dispute. There's a variety of reasons a final audit may be disputed with the carrier. However, it can also be insured error, so being able to determine when the dispute is an important step in saving both you and the insured time. So we'll go through some of the common reasons of when to dispute an audit and seeing both sides, whether that be an insured or a carrier error. If audited payroll does not match the original payroll reported, the auditor could have made a mistake, including an employee's payroll at the incorrect value, which could be a valid dispute. Alternatively, the insured may have made a payroll change midterm that was never endorsed during the policy period, in which case the additional premium is rightly owed to the carrier. If payroll has been assigned to a different class code than expected, the first step is to verify that the employee's job duties were accurately understood and matched to the work comp classification code. In some cases, an auditor may default employees into a higher risk due to limited job descriptions or missing documentation. However, it's also possible that the original classification was incorrect or that the employee's duties changed during the policy term. In either situation for this one, supporting documentation such as a job descriptions and operational details should be reviewed to confirm whether a reclassification is warranted or if the auditor's assignment is accurate. If owner or officer payroll was included, consider whether the auditor mistakenly included an owner's payroll when a valid exclusion form was on file. Alternatively, there may have been an ownership change midterm that was never updated with the carrier, meaning a signed exclusion form was not in effect for the full policy period and the payroll was correctly included in the audit. For subcontractors and vendors, we just went over this one, but if COIs were properly collected and verified, inclusion of subcontractor payroll in the audit may be incorrect. However, if any COIs were missing, expired, or not submitted, the subcontractor payroll might be rightfully included in the audit exposure. So once you've identified and validated any of these inconsistencies, the next step is going to be gathering the supporting documentation and moving forward with formally submitting an audit dispute to the carrier. To formally dispute a work comp final audit, the insured should submit a written request to the carrier, clearly identifying the specific items being disputed and the reasons for the requested corrections. This request typically should be completed on the insured's company letterhead and include a clear, organized explanation of the discrepancies found during the audit review. So supporting documentation must be included with the submission to substantiate the dispute, whether it be payroll records, tax documents, COIs, subcontractor agreements, job descriptions, or any classification support that validates the corrections being requested. It doesn't matter that the insured may have submitted audit documentation already in the initial request. When disputing, you'll need to resubmit the exact documentation in which supports the dispute. For example, if you were disputing a class code discrepancy, then a list of all their all the employees with their specific duties would be required. Or if it was a subcontractor included in the audit, then the corresponding certificate of insurance would be needed. Once submitted, the dispute does not guarantee that the original audit outcome will be changed. However, it does initiate a formal secondary review by the carrier. So during this review process, collection activity on the disputed portion of the premium is typically suspended while the carrier evaluates the supporting documentation and determines whether adjustments are warranted. For this reason, it's critical to submit the dispute prior to the payment due date whenever possible, as doing so helps to prevent the balance from being escalated into collections while the audit is under review. Because the dispute resolution can take anywhere from 30 to 60 days once accepted by the carrier. So once you know how to properly dispute the audit with the carrier, the next step is recognizing operational changes that can occur throughout the policy term, because these are all going to be significantly impact the final audit outcome. Ownership changes, for example, if ownership status changes midterm and the carrier is not properly notified, an owner will be included in the exposure and increasing premium. Business growth or expansion in new operations can introduce entirely new job duties that may fall under higher risk class codes, meaning payroll that was originally quoted under a lower classification may be reallocated at audit, so that could also reduce in additional premium. Staffing increases or new hires will impact the audit if payroll estimates were based on projections that were lower than actual year-end figures. Similarly, when employees take on new job duties or shift into different roles, their work may no longer align with the original class code assigned at policy inception, which will trigger reclassification if not properly documented or endorsed during the policy term. The use of subcontractors and COIs in these cases, if they're not properly tracked and provided to the carrier, they will be included in the exposure. Changes in state or operation in job locations will also affect the audit, as different states may carry different rating rules, classification structures, or premium rates. Finally, payroll per audit endorsements, which is a newer thing being issued automatically by our carriers. It endorses the current term payroll to match the prior year audited results. And when these aren't consistently tracked and managed, it can create confusion between the estimated and actual exposure. So being able to anticipate and manage these types of operational changes is key to streamlining the audit process and improving renewal accuracy. And so I would recommend touching base with the insured maybe every quarter to see if there's been any changes in any of the following categories to ensure that the policy is accurate and it will reduce unexpected audit premium at the end of the policy term. So we have one more poll question for you guys. What is the best method to help my insured understand when they owe additional premium on an audit? Okay, it looks like we got some right answers in there. It's going to be request a copy of the audit worksheet. Um, so you can, of course, call the carrier or your broker as well, but they're going to direct you to obtaining a copy of the audit worksheet to help dispute. Of course, you don't want to ignore the audit premium due, and none of the above would not be the correct response in this situation. So requesting a copy of the audit worksheet, as we discussed, is going to be that blueprint for you to determine whether we need to dispute an audit or not. So minimizing audit issues and maximizing efficiency. The most effective way to minimize audit issues and maximize efficiency is through proactive communication, client education, and setting clear expectations throughout the policy term. By helping clients understand the audit process early and providing them with the tools and guidance needed to prepare, brokers can significantly reduce the time spent dealing with audit disputes, missing payroll records, delinquent audits, and post-audit corrections. Encouraging accurate payroll reporting, proper classification assignments, and thorough subcontractor certificate tracking throughout the year helps improve audit accuracy and reduces the likelihood of unexpected premium adjustments. Taking a proactive approach also strengthens client relationships by positioning brokers as trusted advisors who provide value beyond policy placement. Additionally, resolving potential audit concerns before renewal helps create a smoother renewal process and prevents audit-related issues from becoming obstacles to maintaining coverage. And lastly, creating capacity for new business growth. An effective workers' compensation audit strategy does more than reduce friction, it creates capacity for growth. By turning audit conversations into meaningful client touchpoints, brokers can strengthen relationships and demonstrate value that extends well beyond policy placements. Audits provide a natural opportunity to uncover operational changes that may impact coverage needs, but potentially identify cross-selling opportunities, and educate clients on key topics such as classifications, payroll reporting, endorsements, and audit requirements. Taking a proactive approach to audit management also helps address concerns early, improving the client's experience and reinforcing your role as a trusted advisor. The ultimate goal to minimize the administrative burden associated with workers' compensation audits so you can spend less time on reactive servicing tasks and more time on activities that drive business growth. When clients experience fewer audit surprises and receive guidance throughout the process, your retention improves and referral opportunities increase. The time and resources previously devoted to resolving audit disputes and correcting reporting issues can instead be reinvested in prospecting, conducting strategic account reviews, and pursuing new business opportunities. By streamlining the audit process, brokers can focus on higher value activities that strengthen client loyalty, expand their book of business, and generate long-term revenue growth. So when clients are educated, prepared, and supported throughout the audit process, everyone benefits. So I just want to thank everyone for joining me today in today's webinar. Some of you have had the opportunity to work with in the past, and some I have not, but I hope to in the future. We just have one more poll question just to get to know you all, so I'll pass it off to Alexa.
Okay, our final poll is just a little free response, just asking everyone what city and state they're from. And while I let everyone respond, I'm going to go over our final slide. So if anyone does have any more questions that weren't answered during the webinar, now is the time to chat them in so that we can answer them. Insureds.com. We have tons of tools for you in your office to use, including marketing materials, proposal templates, fillable applications, and a ton of recorded and upcoming webinars on different lines of business and coverages. And please do not hesitate to reach out to Darby after the webinar. She'd be happy to answer any of the questions that you have. And if you do have any completed applications on file, you can start sending them over to the submissions email that you see on the screen. I do see that a lot of people answered the polls, and we do have
Yeah.
quite an array of cities and states, so
Yeah,
that's
that's great.
awesome. So if we don't have any more questions in the chat, let me double check. No, it doesn't look like we have any more questions in the chat. So that will do for today's webinar. We appreciate you all joining us today, and we look forward to doing business with you. Have a great day, everyone.